In a world that's become increasingly loud and busy, the ability to speak less might seem counterintuitive. After all, aren't we taught to express ourselves, to voice our opinions, to be heard? Yet Stoicism offers a radical view. Silence, when chosen deliberately, becomes not a void, but a powerful tool for inner growth and peace. Imagine the stillness of a calm lake, its surface reflecting the world without distortion. This image encapsulates the Stoic approach to silence. It's not an absence, but a clarity, a space where thoughts and emotions can settle before being expressed. To speak less isn't to withhold, it's to choose words wisely in service of a greater purpose. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us that the things you think about are the things that you talk about. In other words, when we speak less, we allow the noise of the external world to fade into the background. The space that silence creates offers us the opportunity to listen, not just to others, but to our inner selves. When we speak less, we create a filter for the chaotic chatter of the mind. Silence allows us to catch the fleeting thoughts that could easily slip away in a rush of words. In this space, we find clarity and can choose our responses thoughtfully, ensuring our words align with our highest values and intentions. Seneca's advice is simple, yet profound. Talk less, but listen more. Listening is not just a passive act, but a discipline of attention. In silence, we begin to listen, not just to the words of others, but to the subtle whispers of our own consciousness. This is the first step in cultivating wisdom. Think about moments when you've encountered a person who speaks infrequently, yet their words always seem to have weight. It is as if they have filtered out all the noise and focused on what truly matters. Speaking less is a manifestation of a life lived with intention, one where silence holds a greater place than the compulsive need to fill the air with sound. As you read these words, consider, how often do you speak simply to be heard, to fill the silence? What would happen if, like the Stoics, you embraced silence as a space for contemplation, reflection, and intentionality? Speaking less is not an absence of communication. It is a deliberate act of strengthening the mind and sharpening the soul. One of the most profound traits of those who speak less is their patience. In a society where everything seems to move at lightning speed, patience is an increasingly rare commodity. Yet Stoicism teaches us that patience is not merely waiting for something to happen. It is the active process of listening and observing, of remaining centered in the present moment. Epictetus, in his teachings, often emphasized that our responses are entirely in our control. He said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." The patient person understands that not every moment demands a reaction. They can wait, observe, and listen, not only to the world around them, but also to the emotions stirring within them. When you think of patience, it's easy to imagine someone sitting still, waiting for time to pass. But patience, in the Stoic sense, is far more active. It is about resisting the urge to jump into a situation, rushing to speak or reacting impulsively. People who speak less understand the value of waiting for the right moment to speak, choosing to listen and process before offering their thoughts. This quality is not about being passive, but about being present. It's about resisting the impulse to fill the space with words simply because silence makes us uncomfortable. Instead, patience allows us to observe, to let things unfold in their own time. It teaches us to trust that the right words will come when the moment is ripe for them. Patience also has the power to create deeper connections with others. When we speak less and listen more, we convey to others that their thoughts and feelings are valued. We give them the space to express themselves fully, which can foster more meaningful communication. Consider the impact of waiting before responding. How often do we, in our eagerness to make our point, interrupt or speak out of turn? Patience teaches us that there is value in allowing others to finish, in taking the time to truly understand before we respond. By speaking less, we show respect not just for the conversation, but for the person we are conversing with. This chapter invites you to reflect. How often do you rush into conversation? How much of your speech is driven by impatience rather than a genuine desire to contribute? The Stoic trait of patience teaches us to wait, to listen, and to speak only when our words will add value. The third trait of those who speak less is self-control. This is perhaps one of the most difficult yet rewarding aspects of Stoic practice. Self-control doesn't mean suppressing our feelings or pretending we don't have impulses to speak. Rather, it is about mastering our impulses, particularly the urge to speak when we might be better off remaining silent. Consider the last time you were in a heated discussion. Did you speak impulsively, responding before fully considering the consequences of your words? Or did you pause, choosing to withhold your response until you could act from a place of clarity and thoughtfulness? Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "The best way to avenge yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer." In this simple line, he reveals an essential Stoic truth, that we are not defined by the actions of others, but by our own choices. In Ito conversations, this translates to the ability to resist the urge to speak in anger, frustration, or to assert control over a situation. Self-control in this context is about pausing before reacting. It's about acknowledging that just because we feel an impulse to speak doesn't mean we must act on it. People who speak less often have honed this skill to perfection. They can sit with their emotions, reflect on their thoughts, and choose when to engage based on the value their words will bring. This doesn't mean they are silent out of fear or passivity. Rather, they are silent because they recognize the weight their words carry. They understand that speaking is not an automatic response to every thought or feeling. Instead, their words are intentional, chosen carefully to reflect their values and their purpose. Self-control is perhaps most visible when we are faced with the temptation to speak out of emotion, whether that emotion is anger, frustration, or excitement. But true self-control is not about repressing those emotions. It is about choosing to respond, not react. It is about creating the space to reflect on whether our words will add to the situation or escalate it further. In this chapter, reflect on your own patterns of speech. How often do you find yourself speaking in the heat of the moment? What would it feel like to practice more self-control, to pause before speaking, allowing your words to be more thoughtful and purposeful? The fourth trait of people who speak less is the ability to reflect. Reflection is the process of looking inward, examining one's thoughts, emotions, and actions before expressing them outwardly. This is one of the most valuable tools in the Stoic arsenal, a tool that allows us to refine our speech, ensuring that our words align with our deepest values. Epictetus asks us to consider, before we speak, whether our words will accomplish something meaningful. What am I about to say, and what will it accomplish? Reflection, in this sense, is not simply a passive activity, but an active one that informs our responses. It allows us to filter out unnecessary words and focus on what is truly important. Consider how often you speak without fully thinking about the impact of your words. Reflection creates a pause, a moment where we can choose our words with intention. By practicing reflection, we cultivate greater awareness of our thoughts and emotions. We begin to understand our own motivations, which then informs how we express ourselves. The power of reflection lies in its ability to prevent rash speech. It is easy to speak out of habit, to fill the air with words simply because we feel compelled to. But reflection forces us to slow down, to question our motives, and to decide whether our words will contribute to the conversation in a meaningful way. In this chapter, I invite you to reflect on your own habits of speech. How often do you speak impulsively, without reflecting on the potential impact of your words? What might change if you took a moment to reflect before speaking, allowing your words to be more intentional and impactful? The fifth trait of those who speak less is presence. Presence is the ability to engage fully with the moment, to be entirely focused on the here and now. When we speak less, we are often more present in conversations, truly listening and responding in a way that adds value. Seneca reminds us that the present moment is the only time we truly possess. Do not waste time on what's behind you or ahead of you. Those who speak less understand this truth deeply. They are not caught up in the past or the future, but fully present in the moment, which allows them to listen attentively and respond with purpose. People who are present are not distracted by the need to fill the silence. They understand that the conversation itself is more important than their own voice. Their silence is not a sign of disinterest, but of complete engagement. By speaking less, they demonstrate their deep respect for the conversation and those involved. Presence is also about focusing on the other person, giving them the space to express themselves without interruption. It's easy to jump in with our own thoughts, but people who speak less are skilled at holding space for others, creating an environment where everyone feels heard and valued. Reflect on your own presence in conversations. How often are you thinking about what you'll say next rather than fully listening? What would it be like to engage more deeply with the present moment, choosing to speak only when your words truly serve the conversation? Humility is the sixth trait of those who speak less. Humility allows us to step back and recognize that our words are not always the most important. When we speak less, we show respect for the perspectives and insights of others. Rather than dominating conversations, we allow space for others to share their thoughts. Marcus Aurelius reflects on the nature of humility in his writings. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Humility is not about being silent out of weakness, but about recognizing that there is wisdom in others, and our words should not always take precedence. The humble person understands that everyone has something valuable to offer. They do not seek to prove their worth by dominating conversations, but instead, they listen with respect and allow others to contribute. This humility fosters deeper, more meaningful connections. Reflect on your own conversations. How often do you feel the need to assert your opinions or interrupt others? What might change if you practiced more humility, allowing others to speak and truly listening to their perspectives? The seventh trait of people who speak less is emotional resilience. In a world full of emotional triggers, those who speak less have developed the ability to remain unmoved by external circumstances. They are not swept up in anger, frustration, or excitement. Instead, they maintain their composure and respond thoughtfully. Epictetus writes, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." People who speak less are masters of emotional resilience. They understand that their words should not be dictated by fleeting emotions but by a clear, rational mind. When faced with challenging situations, they take a step back, process their emotions, and respond calmly. Resilience in speech doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means acknowledging them and choosing not to let them control our reactions. By speaking less, those who practice emotional resilience can avoid contributing to conflict or misunderstanding. Their words come from a place of clarity, not reaction. The final trait of people who speak less is wisdom. Wisdom is the culmination of all the traits we've discussed: patience, self-control, reflection, presence, humility, and emotional resilience. Wisdom allows us to know when to speak and when to remain silent. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. In the same way, the best response to the noise of the world is not to engage with it, but to rise above it, choosing silence when necessary. Wisdom allows us to navigate the complexities of life with grace, knowing when to step forward and when to hold back. Those who speak less are often those who have mastered this balance. They understand that silence, when chosen wisely, is the most powerful form of communication.